Hi there, all you CoinGeek viewers. This is the Bitcoin Bridge. Our topic for this episode is a video streaming platform that takes streaming to the next level. CATN8 allows viewers to pay as they go while watching using microtransactions on the BSV blockchain. This novel idea took third place and $20,000 in the 4th Bitcoin Association hackathon event, which took place at the CoinGeek New York conference last October. Today, we're going to be joined by two of CATN8's developers and founders, Marcel Gruber and Dave Foderick. Okay, Marcel and Dave, welcome to the Bitcoin Bridge, and thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, thank you.
Hello.
So I think most people don't know a whole lot about CATN8 because they only know you from the last CoinGeek conference and the Bitcoin Association hackathon where you guys came in third. So who wants to come up first and tell us what is CATN8?
What is CATN8? Yeah, CATN8 was something that was, well, its inception was the hackathon, really. And I had seen the previous hackathon and I was kicking myself because it came and went. And I know I wanted to participate, but so I promised myself I would do the next one. And so I started rounding people up. And I had a good group of about, six people. And then out of the blue, Dave messages me on the hackathon platform. And the rest is kind of history there. Dave has a major interest in video, which I'll let him talk about more. But yeah, he was kind of the driving force in deciding the direction of what we built in order to meet the requirements of the hackathon.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested to hear. It's how many of you are there? How many on your team, and where are you based?
We have 3 of us. So I'm in Western Canada, Dave is in Western USA, and Thor, the mystery man, is based in, I believe, Wales in the UK.
And he has an appropriate name for a mystery man too.
We love Thor. He helped us a great deal in the hackathon and was there every step of the way. Very committed.
Nice. Well, Dave, since it seems to be you who had the light bulb moment or the seed idea for CATN8, tell us all about that. How'd you come up with it?
Well, previously last year I did Money Stream, which was a pay per second for it could be any type of a session on the internet. You could pay per second to access a website and contribute to monetarily to the creator of the website. So in a lot of ways, CATN8 is taking a lot of those concepts about monetization of the internet, but to the next step. So what we're able to do during this hackathon is create a media server where the user would be required to pay to access the video stream in segments. So they would pay a small amount of Satoshis per segment to access a streaming video. So we had the player, and we created a streaming media server with a monetized URL for the streaming portion. And we did a lot of things with SPV because of course, SPV was the main theme of the hackathon. So
right.
It was direct user wallet, making payments through the player to the media server. So I think that would be a way to sum it up.
Okay, yeah, we've seen with existing services, and the one that of course springs to mind is Streamanity. That's their model is you watch a little bit for free, and then you pay maybe to watch the rest, and the creator can set the time that that you can watch for free, and then the price that you watch the rest of it for. I think CATN8's model is a little bit different. It's kind of a streaming video platform. Did I get that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I
we
think
solved the. Go ahead, Dave.
yeah, well, I think we love Streamanity, and they were very early on with this concept of paying for video. Um, our strategy, and Marcel can go into this, is to we're a little bit more into the tooling and creating an embeddable experience where people are not locked into a platform, and they can take their video stream, audio, any type of streaming experience, and take that out to anywhere on the internet.
Right, right. So I want to ask you, just digging a bit deeper here about how it works. If you've seen other streaming services, maybe outside of BSV, say Odyssey or something like that, what? And I'm talking about just the paid services here, not YouTube. What do you think is lacking in those other services?
Oh, where do we begin? Uh, Going back to what Dave was saying, part of the problem is that you have this lock-in with any of these platforms, and it's, in a way, it's kind of unavoidable, because let's face it, YouTube and Twitch, they are great. They do a lot of good, but there are drawbacks, especially as those services become more commercialized over time. They become more annoying in the same way that Facebook did. It kind of degraded over time.
They certainly do.
And yeah, so that's, I think that's one of the major ones from my perspective.
And if I could just add, I think I haven't used Odyssey that much. I have visited their site once or twice, but I think to differentiate ourselves from the traditional internet, we want to give people an alternative from the advertising model and the monthly subscription model where you pay with your credit card. So we want to do microtransactions and really use Bitcoin for microtransactions, non-reversible payments for non-reversible services, which we think of as cash for content. So really provide an experience where people can go online with their wallet, take their wallet from site to site, and pay for content without being locked into a subscription,
Right,
and being locked into a platform.
Although the subscription model does seem to be pretty popular with creators and business people just because of that lock-in factor.
Right. And yeah, transaction fatigue is real. And that's something that we had to contend with throughout the entire process of building this. And yeah, I mean, to this day, it's, if you think about paying for a stream segment by segment, nobody really wants to see their balance going down.
Yeah, even if it's
time.
just by a cent.
Yeah, exactly. They don't want to see that stack of sats dwindling. And yeah, so subscriptions, well, I mean, they are, yeah, it simplifies everything. But part of what we wanted to do was basically solve for the base case where, yes, it's this cash for content at the most simple level. And with all the UTXO management involved there, that was hard, and it will be hard. But I think we've solved something that almost maybe no one else really has.
Right, yeah. Where do you see the main application for this being? Is it going to be in shows, entertainment, or I think you might have mentioned tutorials and instructionals, things like that.
Yeah, my goodness, there's so many applications, and this leads to what we were talking about in the presentation at the hackathon, where you do have the idea of this video player that is embeddable, and that's front and center. And that itself has many natural applications, but there's also the more business to business side of things, and the commercial side of that data flow and cash flow. But I mean, if we're talking about embedding on a website, well, in order to make the economics work, because storing video isn't cheap and encoding it is not cheap, streaming it is not cheap, it would have to be the type of content that people would want to pay for. And sure, training is one of those. There's all sorts of interesting content out there that people are incentivized to pay for.
Yeah, I'm thinking Udemy's model, if I'm pronouncing that right. They've kind of found this niche where people are more willing to pay because they do online courses, and you might pay up front and watch it. It's not a streaming service, and you don't like pay in increments. But I mean, it is changing the culture in a way from the internet, where we used to get everything for free, and now you kind of expect to have to contribute something for what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's that is limiting in a sense, because by nature of the video segments costing money, there has to be a certain amount of value there. It can't just be mind-numbing videos that you watch on TikTok or whatever as you're 2 a.m.
Yeah,
You have to be willing to pay.
or Bitcoin interviews.
We are investigating other models.
Mm-hmm.
So another model could be paying the end user, the viewer, to watch an ad. There's some tricks to that. It's not easy, but so there are other activities that a user could do to earn money instead of paying to watch things too. So there's all types of interactive services and bi-directional payments that we're investigating as well.
Yeah, if I remember.
Earn and spend.
Right, yeah. I remember from your demo, Marcel, that you sent people to a site and they could just watch the video and automatically receive a few cents just to watch it. So that I thought was an interesting model too. Can you?
Yes, absolutely.
Can you tell us about the technical challenges of this? Like what did you have to do that nobody's done before in BSV?
Okay, well, why don't I start with the demo, and then Dave, maybe you can talk more about what we built during the hackathon. The demo, and by the way, I'm not sure if anyone got the joke in the video I recorded, but there is a joke in there. And
it's still up there if anyone wants to see it, right?
Yeah, it should be, right, Dave?
Yeah, it's there.
All right, good.
We can give out the URL at the end.
It's all right, I can do that.
All right. So the technical challenges, what we did that no one else did. Well, I'm not sure that I'm aware that anyone else has managed to pay a user for essentially watching an ad with a micropayment. I could stand to be corrected there, but I haven't seen it before. And so the technical challenge with paying a random user on the internet is that you're going to attract these people who just want the money and they don't want anything else. So it was funny leading up to the actual presentation and right after, we were getting bot traffic trying to game our system and essentially drain our wallet.
Yeah.
So we were detecting this traffic in real time and shutting it down during the conference. And that is a challenge. And so anytime, that you're paying anonymous users, that's just very difficult. And now I'll let Dave talk more about the player that we did build during the hackathon.
So we built an SPV wallet that would send the Merkle proofs and through the player to the media server. The media server URL is what is a paywall in the hackathon. So it required Bitcoin payments on each request to the media server. So we had a bunch of challenges to make that all happen. Work with the Merkle proofs that I would say at the time none of the wallets did. I think there's more things happening now with SPV.
Yeah.
But to save the headers, to listen for block headers, and to do on the server side, the media side, to validate the SPV transaction as the user is streaming in real time. So it's real time payments in small increments through SPV. I think that was, I guess, the primary, I guess the feature, the main feature that we had to overcome.
Were you using any of the sort of newest messaging services or the APIs that have been released for SPV just in the last 6 months or so?
Yeah, there was a requirement for that. But are you referring to specific libraries that were released by individuals other than nChain, let's say?
No, I was probably thinking about the nChain ones.
Yeah. The reference implementations of SPV channels, which are now called peer channels. Yes, we did use that. And what was cool is that we actually surfaced that data flow in the chat box of the player. And that was one of the cool things that we realized, is that it makes a lot of sense actually when you're talking about peer-to-peer, having a chat box. I mean, what is more peer-to-peer than that? And so if you can surface that information, whatever it is, could be a receipt of payment or an actual message to another party or some ad from an advertiser directly to the person, it really makes a lot of sense to have that in a chat window.
Right, yeah. So I do urge anyone who's watching this, if they're interested, to go over to CATN8.net and check out the demo, because for me, during your presentation, that was kind of a ooh moment. It worked seamlessly. Like, I'm used to demos like not quite working well, or you're being a bit clunky, but that one was slick.
Thank you. Yeah, we put a lot of work in to make that a smooth experience. And I wish I had the time to show it while I was on stage, but unfortunately there was not enough time.
Right, yeah. Well, do you have much data on how many people actually checked it out?
Yeah, Dave, do you remember those numbers?
It was at least 500. I don't know how many went in with money button and then went in with hand cash handle, but it was well over 500 people that got a payout.
So how are you solving the onboarding problem? Because this is something I've faced when sending people to Streamanity links to. They want to watch it, but they're brand new to BSV. They don't have a BSV wallet, and it's a little bit hard for them to get into it. Twitch, I know, lets you do your first post for free. That's their way of solving it. What do you guys have in mind?
There really are a lot of ways, and unfortunately in the demo, we didn't really have a chance to showcase some of those ways. So one of them would be earning by watching something first. And you could also do other things, like you could show previews similar to Streamanity. You could show a low res version of the video until they pay. There are plenty of opportunities there, and that kind of leads into something bigger that we want to think about, which is the policy of the content creator, as in they should be able to specify how much they want to charge and how it should be distributed and viewed.
Yeah, totally agree with you there.
And then one last thing for onboarding would be to have basically killer content that people will fight over each other to watch it. So whatever that is, right? I mean, whatever that is.
Yeah, I want to sign up for how to create killer content lessons. Whenever those things are up there, I will pay for them. So I want to talk to you about the hackathon itself and your experiences there, since that's probably where most people know you from. you did come third in the hackathon, which is actually pretty good considering what there were about 70 projects or something to start up. You had
yeah, there was a lot of competitors in this hackathon for sure. And actually, a lot of people, when I was there, they said, you did not get third, you are a hackathon finalist. So I got their vote of confidence, and I think our mothers think that we got first regardless. So we're winners in the books of everybody.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's plenty of space in the ecosystem for everyone who was there. I mean, even the people who weren't up there on the stage, it was pretty impressive just to be down to the final three. What was your experience with BSV before this?
Sure, I could start that. It's not a very long story. It's so in early 2020, so let's say March, I had just come back from the epicenter of the pandemic in Europe. I came back home. I was in a 3-week quarantine, and
Ouch.
I heard about the halving event in BTC that was coming up. And I took the approach kind of as a speculator, investments like everybody else. And I couldn't shake this mystery of who Satoshi Nakamoto was. And I went down that rabbit hole, like I think pretty much anyone else would. And almost instantly, I came across CoinGeek and Bitcoin Association, and it clicked pretty quickly. But did a lot of research there, and it was fun to learn this because as I am a web developer, and so going through the source code of the original Node software was fascinating. And yeah, the rest is history. I've been learning ever since.
Was it similar for you, Dave?
Yeah, like my journey through to BSV, I was a bit skeptical about Bitcoin, but when BCH was coming into existence, I started out mining at the time.
Right.
So I did some mining, and then I looked at this fork, and I started doing my own investigation. Yeah, so I followed the path to BCH. It seemed obvious to me that we need big blocks adoption. I've always been enthralled by this concept of microtransactions. So for me, even early on in the internet, I love the idea of charging microtransactions, and that's, I think, what always pulled me through and kept me on this path to BSV, where we can actually make something that's usable and scalable with microtransactions.
Yeah, I think that's a sentiment shared by a lot of people in BSV. Big blocks, microtransactions. It was part of the original promise for Bitcoin, and at some point it just became forgotten. I can't really pinpoint at the point at which it got dropped, but it just disappeared from the scene completely until BSV came back. Yeah. Anyway, about the hackathon. So you had about 3 or 4 months to work on the project. This has been the format for the last 2 hackathons. So how many judging or culling sessions were there from start to finish, where they shortlisted the people who'd go on?
Okay, I believe it was 6 weeks of active development time. And in terms of rounds of culling, there was top 6, and then we had to wait, I think, 10 days until we found out who the finalists were.
Right, yeah. There was a short listing. I mean, when we say finalists, there were more than 3 originally. I think they culled it down to 6 and then down to 3, if I'm right. I do try to follow these things. Right, yeah, semi-finalists. Gotcha. And how, Marcel, you were the one who did the presentation, so how ready was it all when you got up there on stage?
How ready was my presentation and the demo?
Everything. Well, your presentation looked pretty ready.
Yeah, I did my best to, well, we all did our best to make sure everything was polished and nice. But since we're here, I can reveal some of the behind the scenes details. And, I actually did not spend a whole lot of time watching the conference. I spent most of the time in my hotel room actually preparing the speech and memorizing it because there were no, I didn't want to bring up cue cards and so on. And so I just went the memory route. And I was reciting that up pretty much up until I was up on stage. And so it was hilarious. There's a green room at the conference where everybody goes and gets mic'd up and gets makeup and a photo taken. And you kind of hang out there before you go on stage, and they have cookies and water and coffee. And I'm kind of doing my own thing back there leading up to the presentation, just kind of going through it in my mind. Meanwhile, Joe, the first place participant, is hanging out with Steve Shatters, just having a chat about the tech. So I was pretty in the zone leading up to that presentation. And then the actual demo, Dave, when did I think it was me that kind of came up with that idea where I said, look, guys, we have to do something. We have to give back. We have to give the people BSB and put on a good show. And it wasn't that the turnaround time was pretty tight. And most of the work was done maybe 2 days before the actual presentation.
Correct. So there was the hackathon submission, which was technically a player and a media server for video on demand, where the user pays the media server to watch video. But for the hackathon, we actually switched it up and in short order did this demo where the user gets paid to watch a video. So that was Marcel's concept that he wanted to show during the actual final. So we did that just in short order in a couple of weeks leading up to the CoinGate conference.
Oh, pretty well done. Now, be honest. What did you think about the judges' assessments of the presentation and the outcome?
Oh, wow. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. And I'll let Dave give his perspective. But for me, I believe that it was the way it should have been. Of course, we would have liked to have won, but the other teams were really great. What they built, they deserved it. And Joe, especially with his submission, is incredible. The presentation on point, what he built alone was amazing. And yeah, so I know I made some mistakes, could have done better, but ultimately it was the way it should have been.
Well, I will say for the record, after the presentations and the judging, that Craig Wright said that he felt personally that the second and third places were a tie.
Mm-hmm.
And there was the audience vote as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were watching the audience vote quite a bit because you could see it on the Omniscape app.
Oh, really?
And it, Joe had a lead of, I think, was it around 47%? And then the next was 21% and then 17%. So second and third were pretty close, but he was way ahead with the audience vote. And even leading up to the actual presentations, there was already a buzz for his solution on Twitter. So makes sense.
Yeah, which is Bitcoin Phone for the record. I think people have been talking about that for a long time, and I guess I will be soon too. So in general, do you think the Bitcoin Association Hackathon is like a good platform or a good venue for people just starting out in the space to grow their ideas?
You want to take that one, Dave?
Yeah, I think it's I've done 4 of them, so I'm a little bit of a hackathon
Nice.
veteran. The first couple weren't really commercially viable. But I have really, this intense period where you can just think of wild things and get in there and code. So I love the hackathons just because they're a mini incubator, and you can develop your ideas. And so from my perspective, I think they do a great job. And the hackathon award is going to help us create better products in the future. So we're thankful for all that. And I think for myself, I've just seen a growth and an extension year to year in each one. So I have nothing but good things to say about that.
Excellent. Do you think
the Bitcoin Association, they do a fantastic job rolling out the red carpet? I mean, they all made me feel so welcome in flying me out there, and just when I was there, it was a lot of hard work. They really made us work for that prize money, but it was well worth it, and a really great time.
Yeah, excellent. All right, final question. What's the next step? Where are you going to take CATN8 from here?
All right. So as part of the presentation, we wanted to be careful not to promise one specific thing, because let's be real here. If a group comes together during a hackathon and they have 4-6 weeks to build something, and everybody expects them to have all the answers and to have a business plan and to have something that's going to scale, we recognize that that's not really realistic in a lot of cases. And we've seen other hackathon finalists pivot, and some of them just move on or kind of go dark, who knows. So we wanted to keep it open-ended and explore possibilities, because what we're seeing in the space in BSV now is there are a lot of people putting in a lot of hard work behind the scenes, and there are synergies forming that you don't see on the surface. And so we want to connect with other people in the space and identify opportunities and kind of assess them and capitalize on the ones that make the most sense, which we're already in the process of doing. And I'll let Dave speak more about maybe the bigger vision.
Right. So there is a larger vision behind all of this, and it's what we're moving towards and where we want to go. But you will see us move there in smaller increments. So maybe I could say it this way, that there are problems with the internet as we know it today, and we're trying to apply some things from Bitcoin to solve the problems of the current internet, so we can build what I call the next internet. So one of the issues with the current internet could be that when you publish content on the internet, you lose some degree of control. So you may produce a film, video, music, but once it's out there on the internet, then copying is rampant, or you need to publish it to these platforms where you don't control how it's monetized. So you're always, it seems, losing some degree of control. So what we're going to do is work toward a future where you can publish content and retain control over it. So you'll create videos, music, streaming gaming. You will register that content on the ledger and associate your policy with that content on the ledger. And since it's not captured by one platform, your content and the policy can move downstream to the consumer, fused together. So your content can be delivered to the end user with your policy intact, and you can have a much greater degree of control over how it gets consumed.
I really like that vision. I'm definitely going to be keeping a close eye on this one, and I encourage everyone else to do that too. So I think we said before it's CATN8.net, and you're on Twitter as well?
Yes, we are. It is CATN8 _.
Remember that underscore.
Yes.
That's always where I have trouble finding it. All right, thanks a lot, guys, for telling us all about that. I really hope you can come back on some point in the future and give us all the really juicy details and another slick demo too.
Soon.
Cool.
Thank you,
Thanks.
John.
Again, I'm Jon Southurst, and you just watched the Bitcoin Bridge. Make sure you go and subscribe to the CoinGeek channel here on YouTube and click on that bell icon so you don't miss out on updates for any of our future shows. See you next time.